Russian commanders planned a massive assault. This time, not with ordinary tanks, but with their most advanced T-90s. Backed by several APCs. The mission was simple: break through the Ukrainian defense, wipe out nearby Ukrainian bases, and take control of that area. But what they didn't know was that this battlefield would soon become the largest T-90 graveyard they had ever seen. As soon as the Russian convoy entered the Ukrainian recon drone surveillance zone, Ukrainian forces quickly mobilized, launched dozens of explosive drones toward the advancing tank. But drones were only the first layer of defense. The battlefield had already been laced with hidden anti-tank mines, waiting silently for their targets. The Ukrainian commanders were watching as the Russian assault came closer and closer to the defense line, and they were fully ready to face it. On the other side, Russian commanders had no idea what they were driving into. And even if some tanks managed to survive both the drones and the mines, more danger was waiting ahead. Javelin missiles, artillery fire, and Ukraine's most effective armored units, including American-supplied Leopards, Abrams, and Bradleys, were all prepared to crush the assault. With everything in position, the battle was about to begin. They first sent a T-90M tank. It quickly rolled in and began firing at the Ukrainian positions. The tank fired multiple rounds and even deployed smoke to confuse Javelin operators.
Fire in the hole.
After firing, it tried to hide among the abandoned houses. But a drone was already above, watching every move. One drone struck the tank from the front, igniting the ammunition inside. Within moments, the entire tank was in flames. The T-90M was destroyed and out of the battle. Then comes the second T-90 tank. It moved forward and fired at the defense line. But then the unexpected happened. It hit a mine. Let's watch from another angle. The explosion was so massive that it tore the tank into pieces, sending debris several meters high into the sky. In this kind of blast, there was no chance of survival for the crew inside. After losing 2 tanks, the Russians realized how strong the Ukrainian position in that area was. So this time, they sent an APC carrying more than 12 soldiers to wipe out the drone operators' positions. The APC managed to avoid the anti-tank mines and successfully deployed the soldiers. But on its way back, it hit a mine. The explosion left no chance for the driver inside to survive, and the APC was destroyed. A reconnaissance drone checked the area and confirmed that no soldier inside the BMP survived. However, the soldiers it had dropped earlier were still moving toward their mission. Now, the real face-to-face battle between Ukrainian and Russian soldiers began. Now the soldiers that had already been dropped began moving toward their mission. The Ukrainian brigade, named Comfort, quickly advanced into the area and started clearing Russian shelters and positions. What started as a small clash soon turned into a big fight. As Ukrainian forces worked to push out the Russian soldiers who were holding the ground, Gunfire and explosions echoed through the ruined buildings and trenches. At the same time, Ukrainian troops stayed highly alert, watching the skies for drones, never knowing if the buzzing above was from Russian drones or their own.
Плюс. Вейт! Прикрой аккуратненько. Вот так, прям вот так. На дерево туда.
They had to fight while also staying aware of every sound and movement around them. But this moment was also a true comeback. The Ukrainian soldiers knew that at any second, the Russians could send more reinforcements, more tanks, or more APCS to retake the ground. They also carried the fear of sudden artillery fire, incoming bombshells, or even an airstrike. Fighting under these dangerous conditions made the mission much harder. Still, despite the risk, they kept pushing forward step by step, clearing each shelter and holding their ground. This showed the determination of the Ukrainian brigade to not just defend, but to win back every inch of territory. After the battle, they moved in to check the area and found around 8 Russian soldiers had been there. As soon as the mission was over, the Ukrainian soldiers quickly moved back and hid in their positions. In this fight, 4 Russian soldiers managed to escape. To finish the job, the task was handed over to the 47th Mechanized Brigade. This brigade took over. They launched a drone strike. The drone locked onto the escaping soldiers and hit them directly. Most of them went down at once. Only 1 soldier managed to escape. The soldier who survived quickly ran toward the Ukrainian defense line and made a wise decision to surrender. Ukrainian soldiers were already waiting for him. They captured him, and later he would be used in exchange for their own captured soldiers. If you're enjoying our commentary and you like watching how Ukraine is bravely defending its country, then please make sure to subscribe to our channel. Russian commanders knew they had to do something special in order to break through that defense line. The defeats of their T-90 tanks and infantry waves were not just tactical failures, they were psychological blows. And in wars like this, commanders cannot afford hesitation. That is why the Russian High Command immediately began looking for new ways to adapt, new methods that could shift the balance on this front. For Moscow's air and ground planners, the answer now lies in combined pressure. They know that a simple armored push won't succeed. Instead, they may try to soften Ukrainian lines with aerial strikes, using bombers, attack helicopters, or glide bombs to weaken defensive positions before sending in fresh waves of armor and mechanized infantry. The logic is simple. If brute force alone cannot break through, then overwhelming firepower from the skies, followed by coordinated ground assaults, might. But the Russians also know something else. The Ukrainian presence here is far from weak. Trenches are reinforced. Anti-tank weapons are pre-positioned. Drones are constantly scanning the skies, and artillery is ready to respond. Ukrainian commanders, for their part, are fully aware that Russia will not simply bow down after these defeats. They know another assault is coming. And rather than just holding the line, Kiev's generals are preparing to use the next Russian move against them. Laying ambushes, setting mine traps, and using mobile drone units to target the moment Russian forces commit themselves. This creates a deadly chess match. On one side, Russia's airship and ground commanders are under pressure to regain momentum, to prove that their forces can still push forward despite repeated setbacks. On the other, Ukraine's leadership is betting on patience, discipline, and layer. The next assault, when it comes, will not just be another clash of machines and soldiers. It will be a test of strategy. Russia's and bleed the offensive dry before it can gain ground. A reconnaissance drone picks up movement. Another Russian column advancing from a different flank. One soldier notices the drone and fires at it. But it's already too late. The Ukrainians are watching closely. The Russian tanks begin weaving along the road, trying to complicate their path and confuse the defenders. But no matter how they move, to reach their target, they'll still have to push through tree lines and minefields. The first tank hits trouble and grinds to a halt. A second tries to push forward, and it fails as well. Almost immediately, Ukrainian artillery locks on and pounds the immobilized armor with heavy fire. Moments like this highlight just how resilient the Ukrainian defense remains, and why these efforts deserve recognition. A Ukrainian reconnaissance team spotted 5 Russian armed vehicles attempting to push inside the territory. A general missile was fired, but it missed, and the vehicles kept moving forward. Soon, FPV drones attacked, dropping bombs on the convoy. Some vehicles hit mines and exploded, but the rest still pushed ahead. Then, a massive trench blocked their way, making it nearly impossible to cross. As the vehicles stopped, Ukrainian recon drones were already waiting. FPVs struck one by one, knocking them out right in front of the trench. The stalled vehicles became easy targets, and one after another, they were destroyed. Tanks determined to break through, but on the Ukrainian side, 2 tanks were already waiting in ambush, prepared for the perfect moment to strike. As the Russian tanks rolled forward, disaster struck. The first tank hit a mine, exploding instantly and stopping in its tracks. The second moved ahead, but it came directly into the line of fire. The Ukrainian tank hidden near the tree line fired a perfect shot, causing a massive explosion that ripped through the vehicle. One Russian tank managed to escape the initial strike and tried to run, but as it pulled back, it also hit a mine and exploded. The Ukrainian tanks didn't let up. They fired again, landing a direct hit. Same spot, but again, it missed the target. The third missile also went wide. By sheer luck, the Ukrainian tank survived all 3 attacks. Without wasting time, it quickly returned to its position safely. The Russians planned yet another massive assault. Even after losing so many men and machines on the battlefield, they refused to slow down. This time, the attack was larger than ever. More than 12 vehicles rolled forward in a single convoy, pushing deeper into Ukrainian positions. As the vehicles advanced, they came under multiple drone strikes, but the convoy kept moving. To support the push, a Russian T-90 tank was sent forward to finish the job. The tank took cover behind two houses, a near-perfect position to launch its attack. The Russian tank fired its first shot, but it missed. The second shot struck one of the Ukrainian APCs, setting it ablaze. Still, the rest of the convoy pressed on. Smoke and fire filled the air as the damaged APC burned. But Ukrainian forces refused to back down. The Russian crews were confused. They couldn't figure out exactly where the incoming fire was coming from, so they fired randomly into the area. Fire. The first shot missed, but the second landed directly on the Russian tank, engulfing it in thick smoke. Meanwhile, the Russian convoy continued moving under heavy attack. One APC was completely destroyed in the process, proving just how vulnerable they were despite their numbers. Thanks to this precise and effective strike, the Ukrainian defenders once again showed their skill and determination on the battlefield. Russian commanders are now caught in a state of confusion. Whatever trick they tried on this battlefield, it all ended in failure. They followed up with waves of infantry, only to watch them fall in face-to-face combat or be captured. Even their attempts with convoys and drone support ended the same way. Broken, scattered, and unable to breach Ukrainian defenses. It has become a pattern. Every strike, every push, no matter how many resources poured into it, has collapsed under Ukraine's layered defense. And that constant failure has forced the Russian command to search for something different, something unusual. Now, in desperation, they are turning to smaller, faster options. Deploying soldiers on bikes and quad bikes, hoping speed and surprise can succeed where tanks and heavy armor could not. First, a Russian quad bike came forward. As soon as the soldiers spotted a drone, they quickly moved backward. The Russians tried to attack the Azov Brigade, sending more than 8 bikes loaded with soldiers. They advanced quickly, unaware that death was waiting for them. But even after this loss, the Russians are not slowing down. This time they send more than 8 bikes, each carrying soldiers, advancing quickly into the area. They had no idea that death was already waiting for them. One soldier spotted a drone, but it was too late. The drone struck from the back, and though the bike kept moving through the trenches, it soon fell down. Moments later, Ukrainian drone operators dropped multiple bombs, destroying motorbikes one after another. Another drone struck a moving bike, forcing the soldier to fall and run for his life. At this point, almost the entire convoy was down, with survivors hiding in trenches. Some soldiers tried to stay under their bikes, but this gave the drone operator the perfect chance to drop a bomb. Destroying both the 4th bike and its rider. The soldiers abandoned them and tried to hide in a nearby abandoned village. But the Ukrainians responded with cluster munitions, striking the houses and then targeting the specific buildings where the soldiers hid. One by one, they were knocked down. swept over the battlefield, confirming the destruction in detail. The wrecks of Russian tanks lay scattered and burning, silent reminders of failed assaults. Nearby, the bodies of fallen soldiers could be seen lying motionless on the ground, with shattered bikes and quad bikes twisted among the debris.